Even in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's still hard to imagine the destruction caused by smallpox. The virus was highly contagious and carried a 30% fatality rate.
Hey guys, if you want to see how I done this monkeypox inspired makeup look, stay tuned.
On a cold November night in Boston, public health activist Cotton Mather was enjoying a quiet night at home until he heard the sound of smashing glass from his living room. Once in the room, he found a grenade with the note attached. Luckily for Mather, the grenade didn't detonate. Mather was engaged in a contentious public debate over a controversial new treatment for a virus, a treatment which the tosser of this grenade was clearly not in favor of. The note read, "Damn you, I will inoculate you with this." The year was 1721, and Cotton Mather was promoting a precursor for the modern vaccine to help slow the spread of smallpox. Clearly, controversy over vaccinations is nothing new. In fact, the anti-vax arguments were similar to those made today, and much of this rhetoric in 1721 was coming from one sensationalist paper run by an enterprising publisher named James Franklin and his young brother Ben. Even in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's still hard to imagine the destruction caused by smallpox. The virus was highly contagious and carried a 30% fatality rate, which was even higher among infants. When the first outbreaks hit in New England, the only tools they had to slow the spread were social distancing and mandatory quarantines, in many cases leading to the infected being locked up in inhumane conditions. Cotton Mather was a well-respected member of the Boston community. A minister and scholar, he was best known at the time for his prominent role in the Salem witch trials. Mather was a slave owner, and one day in 1716, a slave named Onesimus said he knew a method to prevent smallpox. As Mather wrote, Onesimus had undergone an operation, which had given him something of the smallpox and would forever preserve him from it, and whoever had the courage to use it was forever free of the fear of contagion. Later known as variolation, this method involved taking pus from an infected person and applying a small amount to an open wound in a healthy person, hence the courage required to use it. While new to Western medicine, this form of inoculation was used for centuries to prevent smallpox outbreaks in Africa and Asia. The first written description dates from 1549 in China, although it is believed to have been used as early as the 11th century. Mather found a doctor willing to help him refine and promote this technique, and by the time the first major outbreak hit New England in 1721, they were ready to inoculate the masses. There was only one problem. A small paper called the New England Courant had been amplifying distrust in Mather's procedure. The small paper faced stiff competition from larger publishers and had regularly used sensationalized headlines and controversy to boost sales. The paper was run by James Franklin with the dutiful help of his young brother Ben, who would go on to do quite a few things you've probably heard of. The arguments against variolation were uncannily similar to those used by anti-vaxxers and conspiracy theorists today. Some claimed the inoculation would inflict harm on innocent people. Others said that it was somehow defying God. Some doctors opposed to the procedure cited a lack of research and specifically attacked the African origins of the technique. Franklin painted a picture of an arrogant elite who was willing to sacrifice innocent common people for economic gain, using the same sort of fear-based messages that fuels anti-science rhetoric today. And just like some contemporary media outlets, the New England Courant employed a soup of emotionally charged triggers: religious beliefs, xenophobia, distrust of institutions, and economic motivations to turn public opinion against the science. In the end, variolation did not gain mainstream public acceptance, and over 14% of the total population of Boston died from the virus. But despite its low usage rate, the inoculation was an unquestionable success. Of the 242 people who received the treatment, only 6 died. That's just 1 in 40. Compare this to the 1 in 7 of the remaining population who succumbed to the disease. A decade later, Benjamin Franklin was running his own paper in Philadelphia. He recalled the remarkable efficacy of Mather's treatment and began publicly advocating for its widespread use, in spite of his brother's continued argument against the practice. He even went on to co-author a how-to guide on smallpox inoculation with a London physician. Franklin's advocacy would grow even stronger when his young son Frankie died of smallpox at the age of 4. conspiracy theories flew wildly around the press. Some even claimed that Franklin's young son died as a result of inoculation, which infuriated the father. It was in fact one of his greatest regrets that he was not able to inoculate his son. His words about the matter, published in an autobiography, made a strong pro-vaccine argument even today. In 1736, I lost one of my sons by the smallpox, taken in the common way. I long regretted bitterly, and still regret that I had not given it to him by inoculation. This I mention for the sake of parents who omit that operation, on the supposition that they would never forgive themselves if the child died under it. My example showing that the regret may be the same either way, and that, therefore, the safer should be chosen. By the 1770s, inoculation was embraced by the American mainstream, and by the end of the century, the process was modified and refined by Edward Jenner into the first modern vaccine. 2 centuries later, the World Health Organization declared smallpox eradicated due to the worldwide use of the vaccine. But in many ways, the incredible success of vaccine programs has been a major factor in increasing skepticism about them. Until the COVID-19 pandemic, few people living in America today had seen a serious outbreak of a highly contagious and fatal virus. But even with the evidence all around us, dissent remains. And just like in the days of James Franklin, certain media outlets were all too quick to dismiss the dangers of the virus and to vilify the doctors and scientists promoting potential solutions. The good news is that we already have the science to effectively utilize vaccines on a mass scale to promote global herd immunity. But as Cotton Mather realized when that bomb was thrown through his window, combating public opinion can often be harder than fighting the disease itself.
And that's the final look, guys. A monkeypox inspired look. If you liked this, give me a thumbs up. Press the subscribe button right there. And remember, don't be cute, be gorgeous. And I'll try and see you next week. Bye!